Well, good morning, Kate, or Kathryn Hartnett, I should say.
Good morning.
Better known for many, many years as Sister
Fine.
Fine, F-I-N-E.
Yes, the men in our parish call me Sister Fine. And when I come into church on Sunday to use the lift, there's one man that always yells out, Mother Superior is in the house.
And where is this?
St. Albie Church in Chicago.
Oh, my.
Love it. Been there 40 years.
Oh, my. Well, when he yells that out, don't you feel like a queen?
I do. I do. I'm just so special.
And that's what they call you, Sister Fine?
Sister Fine.
Oh, my.
Because I always look fine. I was at the Chicago Theater once. We were going to see The Color Purple, a whole bunch of us. And I'm standing in the lobby, and all of a sudden I hear from the balcony, Sister Fine!
Oh,
Well, that's great.
Well, we can put that on your tombstone.
Something like that. Yeah. Easy, short.
Yes, yes. Well, first of all, I must extend my sympathy to you because in the last 6 weeks or more, you have lost both of your siblings.
Yes.
A brother and more recently a sister, correct?
My lovely sister.
Yeah, yeah. And you were able to get from Adrian to Chicago for the celebration of her life.
Yes, yes. We went the Notre Dame route.
Okay.
So
Someone picked you up
at Notre Dame and brought me into Chicago, and Helen Treese drove me to Notre Dame.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful funeral. If a funeral can be wonderful, it was lovely.
Well, it's a celebration of a life.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yes.
Yes. But it must feel strange being the one and only now from the family.
Yes.
Yeah, you kind of feel like an orphan, right?
I do, but I have 2 cousins that I'm very close to,
Oh.
and we keep in contact.
Oh, wonderful.
You know, they're taking apart her condo, so we talk almost every day about this or that and so on.
And am I correct? You are here for rehabilitation? Is that
Yes, I had rotator cuff surgery, and actually when they got in there, they found out I had rotator cuff repair to be done, and my shoulder was broken.
Oh, my.
So I had fallen down about 4 years ago and never thought a thing of it. And then they had to fix both of those things.
So how's life been for you here?
Oh, it's like a cruise ship. I'm telling you, if you need something, if you just want something, it appears in your doorway.
Oh, my.
I have some vision problems. And I left to go to Chicago. I came back, and I had a bigger TV screen in my room.
How beautiful.
I didn't ask for it. We just,
Someone saw your
somebody
need.
saw it, yeah. Yeah, and I just love it. The women that work here are exceptional.
And they love working here for the most part.
They do.
Yes, yes.
They do. And they've been here 20, 30 years.
I know.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, we're very fortunate.
It's almost like another family.
Well, stay a little longer.
I will.
You
I
do.
will.
So you do physical therapy every day, I presume.
Just about every day, yeah. And I have to, I lost a week, so we're trying to recover.
So may I ask, are you Chicago born?
Yes. St. Ita Parish in Chicago on the north side. Never knew our nuns until high school, when my parents thought I was too young for Jean and Mick, my older siblings. So they wanted me to go someplace where I'd have more connection with girls of my
Your age.
Yes, and they knew that our sisters had a boarding school in St. Charles because my cousin had gone there like 30 years ahead of me. And they just loved it. And I had never even seen it. And they said to me one day, "You want to go to the Mount for high school?" And I said, "Sure. I mean, I'd go anywhere. You know, you want to go to..." And so that's where I went for high school.
Oh, my.
And I had wonderful nuns. I had Marie Camilla, I had Delillis, I had Edwina Clare, I had James Margaret, I had Margaret Phillip, of course, being one of the few nuns in the community to have had a 4-year novitiate before I entered. Because that's exactly the way they treated you when you were in boarding school. They didn't know what to do with us. So they treated us like postulants. We had morning prayer, we had evening prayer, we had profound silence in the dormitories. I mean, it was just, and here I am now on the 3rd floor with Ann Benedict, who taught math at the Mount when I was there.
I haven't.
And here we are.
Yeah, and well, several of your crowd are here too.
Yes, we had dinner last night.
I know.
Yeah.
It looked like there were about 9 of you at
Yes,
least.
yes, at least, yeah. It
Well,
was
that
lovely.
was like a little little reunion.
Yes,
Oh,
it was.
that's wonderful. So, any other sisters that you met along the line, like in the kitchen or?
Yeah, Sister Dionysius. I mean, when I got there, I loved to work and do things. So, in about the 3rd week I was there, I was helping in the kitchen. And I did that for the last 4 years of my life. And Marilyn Uline can testify to that, that I managed the kitchen. Because she was 3 years behind me, I think.
You managed the kitchen at
I brought
Mount.
at the Mount. I brought the food out, I put it away. One time I dropped a whole big thing of mashed potatoes. And Dionysius was so patient. I mean, she was old at that time, and I'm sure she had lots of infirmities, but she didn't even scold me. We just scooped them up and put them on the table.
Without telling
And we all
anyone.
survived. We all survived. And then, of course, Marie Thomas was such a sweetheart. She was in the laundry, and she didn't talk a lot. But you always saw her doing something for somebody else. And when you went over there, she would help you with your laundry and teaching you to iron and things like that. I thought she was just special.
Oh my! Well, you were very fortunate to be touched by such
So many.
so quality and spiritual women.
And especially Marie Eugene,
Yeah,
who was my sponsor.
Marie Eugene.
Marie Eugene, yes.
Yes, Ruth.
Yeah. Ruth Stein.
Ruth
Steiner.
Steiner.
Steiner, yeah.
Yeah. So right after high school, you
I entered, yes, I graduated on the 5th, entered on the, I think, 24th, 23rd, or 24th.
And your parents were fine with that?
Well, my father was fine. He used to say, I sent her to high school, and by God, she never came home. But my mother, I thought was fine with it. But the day I left, she just hugged me and didn't want to let me go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You
But
still
it worked
remember
out.
that.
Yes, it
Yeah.
worked out. I do, because
Yes.
it was such a surprise. You know, she had been into the whole thing about the clothes and the shoes and the trunk and all of that. And I didn't realize how hard it was on her.
Especially since you had been away at boarding school.
Yes,
But you
yeah.
always knew you'd come home for the holidays.
Yeah.
And,
We could only come home one weekend a month at the Mount.
but even that,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be that when you enter.
Right.
When you entered. Yeah. And what name did you choose again? Sister Michael Ellen, as I recall.
Yes, yes.
And that was after your mom and dad.
No, it was after my grandparents. James and Claire were my mother and father's names. But there was a James Claire, a Claire James, a James Claret. We had exhausted all of those names. So I took Michael Ellen. At some point in the discussion of names, I was going to be Cunegunda. Now, I just felt so sorry for St. Cunegunda that nobody ever honored her. And of course, everybody laughed me out of the room.
Probably Sister Margaret Phillip.
Oh, I'm sure it was her. Yes. We will not do that.
From your grandparents or your parents or some relative, from whom did you inherit your joyful personality?
Oh, from my father. Yeah, he had several brothers. You know, they were always, even when they were children, they would get into things. You know, farmers used to cut ice loose from the rivers in Nebraska to put in the barn to keep for the summer. And they were out doing that in the winter, and they cut my grandfather loose on a piece of ice and watched him float down the river. They thought it was funny.
So both your parents from Nebraska?
Yes, my mother taught school in Hubbard, Nebraska, where my father was. My mother had a lot of trouble finding a teaching position because she was Catholic, and they didn't want Catholics, which is surprising. So then when she went to Hubbard for her interview, my grandfather was the head of the school board. Well, of course, she got the job, hands down. She lived with a Protestant minister and his wife, and they told her there were lots of nice men in town, but don't go out with any of those Hartnett boys, which is, of course, she ended up marrying.
Oh my! And when they were married right there in Nebraska.
No, they were married in Omaha because my father had come to Chicago. He did not want to be a farmer all his life. It was a very hard life at that time. And he said he was going to go to Chicago where his brother lived and see if he could make a living so that they could get married and raise a family. And he did. He went for 1 year and he wrote to my mother every day.
Oh my!
And she had a shoebox full of letters. We never read them, much to my, I'm sorry we didn't do that, you know. But he wrote her every day and in pencil, you know, these little letters in pencil and so on. And I just thought that was so romantic. You know, you don't think of your parents as being romantic, but they were.
So he came back to Nebraska.
He came back to Omaha. They were married at the rectory. They couldn't afford a wedding. And then they returned to Chicago and lived there for
So you
their
were
lives.
born in Chicago,
In Chicago.
along with your brother and
Yes.
sister.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Mhm.
Yes. Were you ever missioned in Chicago?
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh.
I was a gazillion places in Chicago.
Was your first mission there?
My first mission there was Queen of Apostles in Riverdale.
Mm-hmm.
My father, I was at visitation in Detroit. But my
Originally? you
yes,
mean?
that was my first
Right
mission.
after
Yeah, with Sister
profession.
Bridgetta. And my father got tired of traveling US 12 to Detroit once a month. So he went to Mass every first Saturday for a year and prayed that I would be missioned in Chicago. And the next August, I was at Queen of Apostles in Riverdale.
Oh my! And that's where he had been praying.
Yes,
Oh my!
yes, it was lovely.
Talk about the providence of God.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And
But-
the faithfulness of your father.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Mhm. They were thrilled.
They were. They were because they could come and do things. And my mother used to come and cook for us. And if there was anything wrong at the convent, my father could fix it. You know, it was wonderful.
So you saw them more than most of our sisters would see their
I
parents.
think so. Yeah, probably.
How wonderful.
Yeah.
A joy for them.
Yes.
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 And what were some of your favorite schools that you ministered?
Oh, I have a lot of them. You know, St. Rita's was one. I was there 5 years. I ran the baton group there. We went to contests with our girls, swishing their batons. I loved it. And then Columbanus was my first experience in the black community.
Oh my!
And it made me face my racism, but it also made me fall in love with African American people. I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
But it was so wonderful to see how they suffered and could combat that suffering and turn it into good stuff for their lives.
My.
It was wonderful, wonderful.
So you had you taught African American children, is that
Yes,
correct?
yes, at Columbanus.
Yeah, and you got to know their parents.
Their parents, you know, one of them was a Tuskegee Airman.
Oh my!
Yes. You know, and many of them were, you know, it was the blue collar. They were policemen, firemen, doctors. One of the kids I taught there is a very famous children's doctor now in the South Side. One of the Rainers. Rainers is a big name on the South Side.
Oh my! I bet you're proud of that.
I am.
Proud
I
of
am.
that.
There's so
Yeah,
many of our
yeah.
kids that went on to do wonderful things.
Who was the principal at that time?
Mary de Montfort was the principal for a while, and you know, I can't remember.
So
her.
you were there a few years.
I was there about 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
and then of course I went to St. Albie's, which I fell in love with. I've been there 40 years,
Oh my!
and I was principal for 32 years,
Oh.
and it gave me such an opportunity, again, to combat my racism, to try to raise the children, to know their history. Because at the time, you know, 32, 35 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of black history that you could delve into. So we had the opportunity to have African American History Month. It started out African American History Day, then it was African American History Month, then it was you know. So we had the opportunity to train the children in the problems and the conquests that the African American people have made. I mean, it was just wonderful.
Where did you think your racism came from?
Oh, just from not ever knowing a black person. When I was a kid, we had Mr. Robinson, who worked at the gas station next to our house. And we had Mabel, who used to come and iron for my mother. And those were the only two black people I ever knew in my whole young life. And when I went to St. Columbanus and when I went to St. Albie's, of course, I had the privilege of meeting and working with wonderful people, wonderful parents and teachers, and they would help me if I was doing something wrong or if I thought wrong about this or what should we do about that, and they would sit down, you know, like when we had afros, you know, how big should the afro be and so on and so forth. So they were a big, big help to me. And it just, it just made my life so much, what do I want to say?
Richer.
Richer, yes. Thank you.
Yes. And you must have had some wonderful teachers.
Oh, marvelous.
Yes.
Marvelous teachers.
Were there any Adrian Dominicans that were ever at your school?
Kay Muzzy was there, Fran Madigan was there, Alma Marie Messing was there for a little while. And they stayed just a short time, and eventually we were all lay teachers. And I learned a lot from them. I had wonderful teachers of the younger children especially. I had wonderful teachers for the older kids, preparing them for high school and you know, and helping them along.
As a principal for 32 years, you must have been called on to help train other principals or give advice to other principals.
Oh, yes. You know, especially when I was not a principal anymore. I used to give talks to new people who were principals and kind of help them along in what they could do, give them ideas and so on. But my favorite thing for them was a saying by Maya Angelou, where she says, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but nobody will forget how you made them feel."
Wow.
And I used to have them frame that at our workshop so they could look at it every morning, because that was so
Would you
important.
mind repeating that? That's quite beautiful.
I'm not sure I have it all, but people will forget what you said, and people may forget what you did, but nobody will forget how you made them feel.
How beautiful. And that was your bylines, I should say.
My mantra for them, I think.
Yes, for your own ministry.
Yes.
And I suspect you were called upon to help people know how to teach or expand their teaching experience and skills.
Well, especially with the high schools, because at that time, black girls, especially in places like Macaulay, they were the first black students because they were Catholic. See, at that time, Macaulay only took black kids, or Catholic kids, and we had some. So they were encouraged to apply there. There were other schools also, and they brought what we had taught them to the high school scene. You know, we had things we used to do during African American History Month. They brought it to their high schools. So we were able to kind of spread it out. And I was always so proud of that, you know, that we could do that.
Did Sister Hilda Marie ever tap you on the shoulder and say, "Help us"? She was a supervisor.
She was a supervisor, but not when I was in the African American community.
Oh, okay.
But we were at St. Rita's. She was the supervisor, and of course she was wonderful.
But did you give, what should we say? You taught classes so the other teachers could see what you were doing?
Oh, we had Saturday classes. That was Hilda Marie. If she supervised in a school where somebody taught math very well or reading, she would have them come on Saturday. We'd go to a school in the Chicago area on a Saturday morning, and we would teach what we had been teaching in the classroom. And I was a very good reading teacher, reading and poetry and so on. And so she wanted me to bring some of my children from St. Columbanus to the school, and we were going to go on the bus, on the CTA bus, not a chartered bus. and I was taking them into a community which was largely white. And I sent a letter home, and I said I would like the children to come with me to a demonstration at such and such a parish and so on. And I remember Mrs. Rayner called me, and she said, I don't think you should write it as a demonstration, sister. The parents will have the wrong idea. So I had to redo the letter, and everybody came with me. But it was one of my first experiences as, in a sense, a black person on a bus going somewhere. And seeing the attitude of other people when they got on the bus and looked at us like, what's going on here? And I think we did sit in the back of the bus, I can't remember, but, you know, it enlightened so many things like that, just opened my eyes. Mm-hmm. And of course, living with Jamie was a wonderful experience. Mm-hmm. You know, that she could straighten us out on things. And
she remains a friend.
Oh, dear friend, yes.
Yes.
Dear friend. I think we're the only two that live on the south side of Alma, the city.
Sister Alma had an unusual, a different ministry, didn't she?
Well, she ended up, she worked with the kids for a while, but she was not a grade school teacher. She was a wonderful high school teacher. So she got eventually a job at the Museum of Science and Industry, and she worked there 25 years.
Oh my.
And they still remember her. She has a membership, and she can go into the museum free of charge, and people still come up and say, oh, Sister Messing. Oh, you know, and it's wonderful. She goes out to lunch every month with people that have retired from the museum that knew her.
Well, what exactly did she do in the museum?
Well, one of the things she did was she monitored the NASA the NASA library. NASA had a library at the Museum of Science and Industry, and she took care of that. Teachers could come and get tapes and so on.
Oh my!
And she was even. She could touch the moon rocks. She was certified.
Wow.
Touch a moon rock. That's great.
What a joy. What a joy.
Yeah.
Did you ever take the school children there?
Oh, yeah. That's the time when she took them. Mm-hmm. They got on the bus on Stony Island because you could get off right by the museum. And she had all the kids sit in the back of the bus. And this one kid, and he says it to her to this day, how come we have to sit in the back of the bus? I thought that was over.
Beautiful.
And she's, you know, and everybody laughed about it, and he's still, to this day, he's a man about 45 years old, and he still quotes that to her when we meet each other at a parish function or something.
Would you tell me this? Did you have wonderful pastors at St. Albie's?
I had several pastors I had to train, but most of them were wonderful.
Yes.
Most of them were wonderful. At one time, Cardinal Bernardin made me co-pastor with Bob Hines and Joe Kane. And I was the first woman in the diocese to be named co-pastor.
Weren't you honored?
I was.
Yes. And what did that mean exactly?
That means I was doing exactly the same before I got the letter as after I got the letter, because I was the principal of the school. Yeah. So I would engage in, meetings and so on, and plans and all of that. But it was fun.
I remember you telling me that you had a ritual as every morning and at the beginning of school and when the school was...
Oh, in my chair.
In your chair.
I had a great big white plastic chair, and I would sit on the porch outside school, and when the kids would come in, I would give them all hugs and talk to them and call them by name. That's important. And then when they left, I would sit there again. And they would all give me hugs, and we'd say, we're going to meet tomorrow, and so on and so forth. And I would wish them well, and I love that part of it. And sometimes if the kid hadn't been so good in school, like a 7th or 8th grader, I'd say, stand over there for a minute. And everybody would go out, and then I'd call him over, and I'd say, what are you going to be like tomorrow? He'd go, I'll be all right. Yes, okay, good. So it just, the attraction to the children was wonderful. They were my children.
Yes. And the parents, what a support they must have been.
Oh, yes.
And thrilled with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
No matter where we took them, they agreed.
Mm-hmm. I bet you hear from some of them
while I see them at Mass on Sunday.
Yes. But while you're here at Maria.
They call.
They call.
Yeah.
And who's your current pastor?
My current pastor is Father Larry Duras, who loves the Adrian Dominicans. He had Adrian Dominicans at St. Lawrence, he had Adrian Dominicans at St. Philip Neri, and then he has Adrian Dominicans at St. Albie. And he just loves our sisters.
There must be some graduates from Albie's that you've had that you're very proud of, the progress that they have made, or the position that professional positions they're in.
Yes, we have some doctors. We have one young woman, Kim. Can't think of her last name. Anyway, Kim used to come to the convent at 6 a.m. in the morning because her father had to go and learn a new machine at work, and he had to be there early. So I said, just bring her to the convent, we'll take her to school when we go. So he'd drop her off at 6, and she came with her hair and yellow ribbons and her nice little pressed uniform, and she'd sit in the living room with the cat in her lap, and she'd say, my parents want you to know how much they appreciate what you're doing. She was just such a wonderful kid. Now she works for the head of police, the commissioner of police, in his information section.
Oh my.
She has a big shot job there. She's a sergeant. And she's just wonderful.
Do any of the students come back to thank you for your education
yes.
and the education of the teachers?
Yes, the diocese has a wonderful organization called Big Shoulders, and they sponsor, days when people come back and masses to commemorate things, and I'm always at those.
Beautiful.
Yes, and people tell me, how much they loved it. And I had my dog. I bring Queenie to school with me, and then I brought Riley to school with me. Riley had to have his leg amputated, but it was a wonderful lesson for the children to see how someone can recover from that and still keep going. And they mention him.
Well, do you plan to stay at Maria now, or what are your plans for the future?
Well, my plans for the future are to get my arm moving, to complete the therapy that I have, and then to go back to my folks in Chicago. But I know that this is going to be my home eventually.
You seem very, very comfortable.
Oh, it's
here.
wonderful. It's just wonderful.
Well, thank you for all the joy you bring to us. It has been a delight for me to have this time with you.
Oh, thank you,
Yes.
thank you. And thank you to all the nuns that live up on 3 South, because they go along with all my ideas and things.
3 Maria. I think
3 Maria.
Yes, yes. Hello to all of them, and thank them for their presence.
Yes,
also.
absolutely. And they're, I look at them and think we're standing on their shoulders.
Amen. God bless you.
Okay.